Hello everyone. So in this video, in this Tea with Ravi video, in this session, let us go through some of the exciting things from Atlassian ecosystem. Now, the first update is not really a new update. In fact, Atlassian announced this sometime, I believe, late last year, but I believe it was released or it was made available, I guess, in Q1. And I was trying with, and I was playing with this feature, and I think it is useful. So this feature is basically changing the workflow, and this is basically for Jira administrators, especially Jira administrators who are new to doing Jira admin work. Now, this is about changing the workflow of a request type in a Jira service management project. Now, we all know about workflows, and workflows are attached to or could be attached to one or multiple issue types, and that too in a particular project. So basically in Jira, we have this concept of schemes, and we have a scheme called workflow scheme. And in that particular workflow scheme, you would define basically a mapping, like these issue types will have these workflows. And it can be, of course, one workflow for all the issue types, or each issue type can have its own workflow, or maybe two issue types can have one workflow. So you have like a lot of possibilities. Basically, it's a mapping. Now, when that mapping, or basically that scheme where you have defined this mapping, is applied to a project, that project, based on whatever issue types you have configured in that particular project using issue type scheme, will get the mapping of those workflows. So this is quite useful, and I quite like it because you have a lot of customization options using this. And when it comes to Jira Service Management also has request type. So you have issue types, which are of course within Jira. Then for the portal, you have request types, and the request types are also mapped to the issue types. So when you are raising, let us say, a major incident or maybe just a normal incident, both of these request types can be pointed to or can be mapped to just one issue type called incident, and that particular incident can have its own workflow. But maybe for major incident, you may want to have like a separate workflow, so you will probably create a separate issue type. I mean, that is of course a possibility, but the thing is that request type is like one more layer on top of your issue types and of course workflows. Now in Jira, when you have to change your workflow for a particular issue type, you can do that by of course going to the scheme and modify the workflow. You might need to create a new workflow, or maybe you want to reuse a workflow. But now what will happen, not especially, but I believe this feature is only for of course Jira Service Management, because we are talking about request type. So what I believe will happen now, you can change the workflow of a request type along with the underlying issue type very easily in one go. And this can be done when you go to your project settings. So I'll just show you very quickly. So within project settings, you have request types, and you will have the option here. Let us say in this particular case, we are talking about submit a request or incident. So basically I was playing with it and I changed the workflow, and the way it works, you will be able to get, or you will basically get a list of all the workflows from other projects, and you can also change the workflow, but it will also bring in, or it will also change the mapped issue type for you. So let us do that very quickly. So if you look at the workflow, or basically the option here called replace with existing, what you can do, you can take a look at all the other projects. Let us say I want to use the customer service desk, and I have this workflow which I can probably use, or maybe another workflow. Basically based on these workflows, their associated issue types are also displayed. So what will happen now, if I understand correctly, the moment you select this workflow to be applied on your project, you will basically get the workflow, and you will also get the issue type. I believe that is how it is. So I think, so first of all, I'm not really sure why this was done, because to be honest, if you're doing Jira admin work, it was never really too difficult, because you just need to know how Jira works, like the admin part. But anyways, I guess maybe someone in Atlassian's teams, maybe their developers were free, or maybe they had time to do something extra, or maybe it was some intern who was given this responsibility. Okay, let us do something in your free time. So it seems like it is like a free time project for developers, but I guess in a way it is good. because now we can use it. But at the same time, if you look at the workflow, the way workflow has been presented here, I'm not really sure why Atlassian is presenting the workflow in this cluttered manner, because it is not really useful. They should have just shown the usual workflow that we are familiar with. But anyways, it's all right. I mean, we have a feature. Let us see how it works. And if you click on the update, it will basically change the workflow and along with the issue type. So basically, if there are some already issues, you need to of course map it just like the usual mapping that you have to do when you change something. So I'll just select some issue type, or not issue type but statuses here, and confirm, and we'll go back to the request type. So you can see here that from I think it was some other issue type, I think it was changed. Now it says incident along with of course the workflow. And if you look at the issue, not the issue type, but I want to look at the workflows here. So basically the workflow here will be brought from that particular project. So this particular project CSD, or basically this particular workflow from that CSD project will be brought here. So I'm not really sure if this is super useful, but I guess it is a feature, and I'll probably wait and watch, because I think it has simply reused the workflow, which is in a way not a bad thing. And I guess Atlassian is trying to make it easy to do Jira admin work. Anyways, let us move on. The next thing that I want to talk about is about release tab in Jira software-based projects. Now in Jira software-based projects, I mean in Jira we always had this option or feature to create versions. And these versions are nothing but, these versions make more sense when you talk about software-based projects, when you release something, especially software. Now, I made a video, I believe, sometime back on this, and I haven't really started using it. To be honest, because this feature is there on cloud, so you have to use it, whether you want it or not. But there are some improvements which I quite like, and I did mention it on my video, but I'll probably show you very quickly how it looks like. But the thing is that when the release tab option, or when you go to the release tab in your project, after you enable it, you will get some additional features, like you can have like links to other tools, and the list of issues that you get will also show you the information from your commits, or basically your PR, or basically your code repository information, like if you have deployed something or whatever. So basically your branches and everything, which is great because you can actually take a look at it within your release. So this was, I believe, not really available for everyone, although in one of my instances I was able to use it, but I guess now it is there by default. So if you go to your project, you may not see the release option here. What you need to do, you need to go to the project settings and then go to features, and then you need to basically make sure the release is enabled. So this is something that you can do, and then you go to the releases, and then you can see here that okay, you have all the releases. But if you open one of the release, that is where you will see the improvement. Basically, if you look here, it used to be just this roadmap kind of a view where you had this bar with breakup by status, and you can see here all the issues under this particular release, basically based on the fixed version. But the thing is that I'll come to this list. On top, you can see here that you have the option to release, to create a release note. Basically, you can, I think I also made a video on this topic. Basically, you can select a page where you can create a page in Confluence, and then that particular page will also get updates from this. Basically, whenever you have a new, I guess it will probably create a macro. And when you look at this list here, whenever something changes, of course, you will be able to take a look at the updates. But the thing is that if you create a page, or if you want to add a link or links to other issue or other tools, you can. So let me just do that. So there is an option called add a link. You can click on it, and then you can create release notes. You can add a link. You can basically add some items, I guess. And these items are nothing but some some links or some activities, and you can also create or you can also associate some existing issues or create a new one. Basically, some task like a checklist kind of a thing that for this release you need to do these 5 things. So in a way, I believe it is good. It can be useful, but I haven't really started using these things for my clients, because usually these things are managed. You need to because it's still like a manual process, and pre-release preparation or whatever you want to do before the release. Usually they track it in Jira issues, which I believe you can still link here. So you're anyways link it to a Jira issue, but you have to do it manually. It's not real like automated way of like populating these pre-release tasks and also display it here. I mean, that would be great, right? I mean, let us say you have in Jira some tag or whatever, and you want to make sure that that pre-release checklist appears here automatically. Anyways, it's still good. I like it. At the same time, let us take a look at the issues. And if you look at the issues here, you can of course take a look at all the issues in your project where you have that particular fixed version. But for some of the issues, if you have some information from your code repository, let us say you have some branches with the branch name as you have your issue key in the branch name, or if you are using smart commits, or basically you have your issue keys in the commits, then that information will also be displayed here. There is also this option to basically add a feature flag, which I'm not really sure how it works because I never really used it, but I guess just take a look at these features here, or maybe basically these are some apps that you can take a look at. I never really used it, and I guess in a way, let us take a look at the learn more. So basically, these feature flag is so Atlassian is saying here that at the core of blah blah blah, it's a mission to help teams ship quality software. Feature flag, also known as feature toggle. Okay. All right, new feature flag. Okay, I am not really 100% sure how it will work and how exactly this will work with Jira. Maybe you have to use only these. I think the only 3 options is basically these 3 tools: split.io, harness, and launch darkly. So these are basically apps that you can use. So I'm not really sure. So maybe you can tell me. So these are some of the updates, and I think this is something that is quite useful. But at the same time, because Atlassian keeps on adding new features to Jira Cloud, which is, I believe, definitely good. But at the same time, they don't really make it available to everyone instantly. I think when you have, sometimes you can sign up, sometimes you have to basically wait for your instance to get those updates. The last update is actually about Jira product discovery. So this is something which is interesting because I started trying Jira product discovery. I believe it was sometime, I think it was like launched like 2 years ago, or maybe it was mentioned somewhere 2 years, sometimes 2 years ago, or maybe, last year definitely it was there out in beta, but it's out of beta. And basically if you are trying to create a product, you can actually plan for it. And again, it is now out of beta, but at the same time, I still haven't started using it for my deliveries or my client engagements. I'm still trying to figure out and trying to understand how to best use it, because it has some nice features which make sense. But to be honest, when you're trying to create a product or maybe planning to create a product, it is still, there is no process around it. That is the thing. When you're doing software development, you can create a process around it, or maybe you can do some planning because you know what you have to do. But when it comes to like ideation, you're just brainstorming, you're just discussing, talking to each other. So I'm not sure. And to be honest, you can still do those things using Jira issues. But it is good to know that this feature is now out of beta, and maybe you want to take a look at it. The last thing that I want to talk about is the video of the week. So this week or last week, I made this video on how not to name your Jira statuses. And in this video, I basically shared my experience. Based on my experience, how I have been suggesting my clients not to, or how to name Jira statuses, because sometimes Jira statuses can be too specific, and you don't really need 2 specific statuses unless It is something very important. I mean, in most cases, you just need simple statuses and a simple status name, because status in Jira is nothing, or status in Jira workflow is nothing but the state of the activity. So you don't really need to create a status like, okay, I'm waiting for something from Jack, or I'm waiting from something from Jessica. That is not really a status. That is basically messing up with Jira configurations. I mean, you can do that, but don't do it. You can always use your column names in your Jira workflow, or Jira, not workflow, but Jira board. So especially if you're using a Scrum board or maybe Kanban board. I guess we have boards in a lot of places now. So you can always name your, I mean, not in Jira Work Management, because I don't really think you can name your Jira Work Management columns. No, I don't really think you can do that. But of course, in your Jira software-based projects, you can. So this is something that I thought I'll probably, let you know. Do watch this video and let me know what do you think about it. So that is all. That is all from this week's updates. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you learned something new. Thank you very much. Bye bye.